Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you. It was quite unexpected to see President Trump take such a sharp U turn on the Strait of Hormuz issues. Until now, the market was largely working with the view that the steps being taken were aimed at bringing stability. But the proposal to impose a toll on ships passing through Strait of Hormuz has caught everyone by surprise. The market was clearly not prepared for this development. As a result, crude oil prices have jumped sharply to $85 per barrel and the rupee has come under pressure. Today it was around 96.20 and the inflation concerns have resurfaced across the globe. If crude remains elevated, then central banks may have to consider rate hikes over the next 5 to 6 months. Of course, if the situation eases and tensions come down, nothing would be better than that. But as of now, the chances of a quick resolution look limited. So we need to stay prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. The good news is that the earning season is about to begin. In fact, it started. During the result season, the market generally shifts its focus from global events to domestic corporate earnings. If the results and management commentaries come in better than expectations, we could see renewed positive momentum in the market, which may help to limit the downside. That makes the earnings season extremely important. To help us understand what to expect, we have with us Mr. Pankaj Kumar, who has prepared a detailed preview of the Q1 results. So, without taking any more of the time, I would like to hand it over this session to Pankaj Kumar. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. So the flow of the presentation would be, I'll first take you through the brief background on the overall results and then some overview on the macro and valuations. Post that, we'll go through the individual sectors, which I and our team will take care. So first, to go through the overall sector results preview. Next slide, please. If we look at overall result expectations, so if we exclude the OMCs, the oil marketing companies numbers, then the Q1 FY27 net profit of our coverage universe is expected to increase by 14.6%. And this will be primarily driven by capital goods, where we expect a strong demand condition across most of the subsectors. Then the financials, where healthy growth, stable asset quality, and NIM expansions are expected. Metals and minings would be in focus due to the elevated commodity prices in the June quarter that will drive the earnings. And the telecom services, where higher ARPUs would drive the earnings. But the catch is, if we look at if we include the oil and gas marketing companies, then in that case, the overall Kotak Universe earnings are expected to decline by 8.7%. Why this will happen? Because a sharp decline in profit is expected from the marketing and inventory losses amid crude price volatility. So this is a drag on the overall Kotak Universe earnings. If you look at the BSC, previous slides only, if you look at the BSC net profit, that is expected to grow at roughly 5%, and Nifty earnings are expected to grow at roughly 10% in first quarter of FY27. Next slide, please. When we look at the overall hits and misses, which are the sectors going to see good results and which others are going to see a drag. So first, as I said, in the capital goods, where we expect 10% growth in overall revenue of our coverage universe and 17% growth in PAT. However, this profitability trend would be divergent across companies. Some companies may see margin pressure, which I'll take you through individual slide. Diversified financials are expected to see 10% growth in sales and the 17% growth in PAT. There's a healthy growth, stable asset quality, and NIM expansion. Metals and mining expected to see very sharp growth in PAT. As I said, elevated commodity prices are expected to drive the earnings for metal and mining, roughly 60% growth in PAT. Telecom services will see a very sharp growth in PAT of roughly 390% on a YY basis. With the base effect as well as higher ARPU that will drive the growth. But the drag we see oil and gas sector where we are expecting 112% PAT decline. And this sharp profit decline is led by the marketing and inventory losses amid the crude price volatility. Construction material sector, we expect 7% decline in PAT due to higher cost and profitability pressure despite healthy demand. Pharma sector is also expected to see 8% decline in PAT. This is impacted by Revlimid ramp down. Overall, if you look at the sales expected to grow at 12% for the sector, driven by healthy domestic and modest US sales growth. Transportation sector expected to see 18% growth in sales, but 11% decline in the PAT because higher aviation fuel price is expected to impact the airlines unit economics. So you see airlines stocks, particularly Interglobe Aviation, expected to see a decline in the PAT. Next slide. If you look at the macro side, of course, the most important, the current scenario is the monsoon. June month was pretty challenging when we had just 60% of this rainfall. And the overall rainfall activity was 40% below long-term average. But this was made up in the month of July. And this gap has narrowed down to roughly 15%. So monsoon activity is very crucial and a lot more depend upon how it progresses in the next 1.5 months. Deficit monsoon season may impact the purchasing power of non-agriculture, rural, and low-income urban households, depending on the food price, where their savings are very much led by the food price inflation. June, if you look at that, will also have an impact on inflation. So we have seen the June CPI number where it has increased to 4.4% versus 3.9% in May. So this was marginally above market expectations, and that was driven by higher food and fuel inflation. The impact of weak monsoon is already becoming evident in the sharp increase in the vegetable prices during June month. So we retain our FY27 headline CPI estimates of 5% as a base case. So in adverse scenario, we may even see it around 5.7%. And due to all these, we expect we expect roughly 50 bips rate hike in the current financial year, and that is potentially beginning from the December month. We have seen globally ECB and Bank of Japan raise the interest, and the US and UK, however, kept it unchanged. But looking at the current geopolitical scenario and the crude oil spike, there is a risk of global interest rate hike in other markets as well. So next slide, please. I'll take you through that. If you look at overall, we are constructive on Indian macros, but the recent development, what we have seen in the US and Iran war, the peace deal is still in limbo, and there is a recent uptick in the tensions in the Middle East, with the US President Donald Trump announced plans to impose shipping fees in the Strait of Hormuz. And he's also reinstated the blockade of Iranian ports. So that is a concern as far as the global crude price and supplies are concerned. So हमने ऐसा देखा है कि अभी जो crude price है $85 हो गया है, and that had gone to $70. तो यहाँ एक spike दिखा है because of all these uncertainties. So Overall, we assume this all geopolitical tensions can be contained through diplomatic channel, and as there is a larger global interest in this crude price is expected to impact the global economy and even the developed economy and the inflation worldwide. So there is a possibility of diplomatic discussion later at the later stage. But right now the situation is somewhat not favorable. However, we remain constructive on the macro views as we expect modest growth in the GDP. We expect 6.5% growth in FY27 and roughly 7% in FY28. And we expect fiscal to remain stable. Recent steps by RBI and overall, if we see the crude oil prices, though it has increased, but still at around 85, 86, that is somewhat manageable vis-a-vis what we have seen in the earlier cases of around $100. So overall, we are constructive on Indian macros. Next slide, please. We expect a strong recovery in the Nifty earnings in FY27, roughly 17.6% earnings growth we are expecting. Indian market, if you look at valuations, there is a wide variance across sectors. So consumption and investment stocks are trading at rich valuation versus BFSI and IT services are trading at cheap to attractive valuation. So Nifty is currently at a 17 times on a forward basis. So that is pretty reasonable. और हमारा ऐसा मानना है कि इंडियन इक्विटीज में एक मॉडरेट री रेटिंग हो सकती है और फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर्स अट्रैक्टिव लगता है हमें एट द करंट लेवल. नाउ आई टेक यू थ्रू द सेक्टरल एक्सपेक्टेशन. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. फर्स्ट इज द कैपिटल गुड सेक्टर जहां पर हमारा कॉशियस व्यू है. We overall expect healthy growth in the capital goods sector stocks under coverage, particularly in the electrical and T&D universe, where we margin performance are likely to be driven by the company specific business mix. हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं रफली 29% ग्रोथ इन BHEL, जो कि एक लो बेस वहां पर काफी हद तक सपोर्ट करेगा. एंड apart from that, we also expect improved execution. CG पावर में हम अच्छा रिजल्ट एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं. रफली 26% ग्रोथ हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं. सीमेंस इज ऑल्सो एक्सपेक्टेड टू रिपोर्ट मिड टीन्स काइंड ऑफ ग्रोथ. L&T की बात करें जो कि लार्जेस्ट इन द स्पेस है, देयर वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग सम 6% ग्रोथ इन द कोर EPC रेवेन्यू एंड द कोर EBITDA margins are expected to moderate around 7.1% versus 7.6% over last year. यहाँ पर मिडिल ईस्ट टेंशन का एक इम्पैक्ट दिखेगा बिकॉज एग्जीक्यूशन भी इम्पैक्टेड रहेगा और ओवरऑल द कॉस्ट एंड इन्फ्लेशन का भी इम्पैक्ट दिखेगा ऑन द नंबर्स. ब्रॉडर इंडस्ट्रियल सेगमेंट में थर्मैक्स इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू रिपोर्ट रफली 16% YY ग्रोथ ऑन अ फेवरेबल बेस. कमेंस थोड़ा ये क्वार्टर स्लो दिखता है, 7% ग्रोथ दिख रहा है. दिस इज इम्पैक्टेड बाय वीकर एक्सपोर्ट्स टू वेस्ट एशिया एंड नॉर्मलाइजेशन इन द पावर जेन बिजनेस. रोड इंफ्रा सेक्टर कंपनीज में एग्जीक्यूशन इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू इम्प्रूव. इसमें हम PNC इंफ्रा का भी एग्जीक्यूशन अच्छा देख रहे हैं और अदर कंपनीज है IRB वगैरह, वहां पर भी ओवरऑल सही दिख रहा है. Only thing is the awarding activity is expected to be muted only in the quarter. EMS companies की बात करें तो we expect a steady Q1FY27 revenue and EBITDA projected to grow at 18% and revenue expected to grow at 21%. जो B2C companies हैं उसमें Dixon is expected to report robust 43% QOQ revenue growth led by the strong momentum in mobile and consumer electronics segment. B2B EMS segment में we expect a healthy growth across most of the companies led by the strong demand across end user industry. हमारा preferred pick capital goods में L&T है at the current level. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. रियल एस्टेट पे ओवरऑल हमारा अट्रैक्टिव व्यू है एंड रियल एस्टेट में हम देखेंगे तो ये क्वार्टर रिलेटिवली थोड़ा स्लो दिखता है. यहाँ पर 3% डिक्लाइन YOY बेसिस पे दिख रहा है इन द प्री सेल्स फॉर आवर कवरेज यूनिवर्स. बट इसमें बड़ा रीजन एक है जो लार्ज बेस है एंड इसमें जो दो कंपनीज है DLF एंड प्रेस्टीज, these two company had a very strong Q1 in last year. So इस क्वार्टर में इतने बड़े लॉन्चेस नहीं रहे हैं फॉर दीज कंपनी, सो द प्री सेल्स आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू डिक्लाइन फॉर दीज टू कंपनी, सो दैट्स व्हाई ओवरऑल यूनिवर्स इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू सी अ मॉडेस्ट काइंड ऑफ प्री सेल्स. बट जो अदर कंपनीज हैं जहाँ ओबरॉय जिन्होंने नंबर रिपोर्ट किया है, काफी अच्छा गुरुग्राम में सेल्स दिखाया है, शोभा ने भी काफी अच्छा दिखाया है, गोदरेज एंड लोधार एक्सपेक्टेड टू रिपोर्ट गुड मिड टीन्स काइंड ऑफ प्री सेल्स ग्रोथ. कमर्शियल साइड में लीजिंग मोमेंटम स्ट्रांग लग रहा है, एंड वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग ग्रेजुअल इम्प्रूवमेंट इन द रीट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. हॉस्पिटैलिटी कंपनीज आर लाइकली टू रिपोर्ट हेल्दी अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ. ओवरऑल हमारा प्रेफर्ड पिक अगर रियल स्टेट में देखेंगे तो लोधा, शोभा एंड स्मार्ट वर्क. ओवर टू माय कलीग अमरजीत.
Okay, so next sector is metal and mining. So in this space for the ferrous and non-ferrous, we are expecting a margin improvement in the both segment. So on the steel front, we estimate margin to increase by 1,500 per ton on the on an average for a steel companies, led by higher price for a flat product during the quarter and partially offset by the higher cooking cost and seasonal weakness in the rebar prices. अगर हम देखें तो इन ओवरऑल स्टील कंपनी के रियलाइजेशन बढ़े हैं अराउंड 4,000 पर टन इन ड्यूरिंग द क्वार्टर इन दिस क्वार्टर एंड द रीजन इज ड्रिवन बाय प्राइस हाइक ओवर लास्ट टू क्वार्टर्स. And all volume front में we are expecting 8% volume growth year on year and Q on Q, which is 14% degrowth for our companies and mainly driven by higher capacity utilization in the Jindal Steel and JSW Steels. On the non-ferrous front, we are expecting a robust quarter for the base metal player due to the higher commodity prices. On the Q and Q basis, aluminum prices is increased around 11.5% during the quarter, and zinc is around 7%. And while silver was declined around 11%, alumina price was remain flat. So overall, we are expecting margin improvement in both segment, and our preferred pick is Vedanta Aluminum Metal and Jindal Steel. Word to my colleague.
Thank you. I will take you through consumer staples and discretionary. Overall, we have a cautious stance on the sector, but Q1 FY27 we are expecting resilient growth trends for consumer staples and discretionary. Staples, we are expecting resilient growth and negligible margin pressure, primarily due to war-led raw material inflation, which companies, most of the companies have low-cost inventory, and they have also taken timely price hikes. We are expecting resilient revenue growth for most of the names, primarily because of share gains from the unorganized sector. EBITDA margin trend भी काफी mixed रहेगा depending on each player's exposure to crude link RMs and low cost inventory. We are not seeing any major impact on EBITDA margins for most players, primarily due to, as I told you earlier, low cost in use of low cost inventory and also moderated advertisement and promotion spend. For discretionary, हम लोग देख रहे हैं strong trend in jewelry. पेडिलाइट हम लोग ये भी देख रहे हैं कि सेम स्टोर सेल्स ग्रोथ पिकअप होगा फॉर सेलेक्ट QSRs लाइक बर्गर किंग इंडिया एंड मैकडोनल्ड्स. We will also see good acceleration in decorative paints, especially Asian paints. This would be aided by price hikes, and we are expecting weak volumes for United Spirits and cigarettes for ITC. हम लोग ओवरऑल देख रहे हैं कि पीडीलाइट और पेंट्स के लिए डबल डिजिट प्राइस हाइक्स जो उन्होंने लास्ट 2-3 क्वार्टर में लिया था वो काफ़ी अच्छा प्ले करेगा. एबिटा मार्जिन शुड बी लार्जली स्टेबल. फुटवेयर में हम लोग एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं गुड ग्रोथ फ्रॉम कैंपस एंड मेट्रो ब्रांड्स, एंड ओवरऑल हम लोग ज्वेलरी में देख रहे हैं कि वी कैन एक्सपेक्ट गुड क्वार्टर फ्रॉम टाइटन एंड ब्लू स्टोन. वरुण बेवरेज से हम लोग अच्छा ग्रोथ एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं विद 22% वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ, और आईटीसी और यूनाइटेड स्पिरिट से वीक नंबर्स एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं. और ओवरऑल इस सेक्टर में हमें अच्छा स्टॉक जो लगता है वो है यूनाइटेड स्पिरिट्स, पीडीलाइट, Godrej Consumer, Honasa. That's it from my side. Over to Arun.
Yeah, thank you. In the auto space, when we look at fourth quarter was actually a good quarter from a volume growth perspective. So when we had the GST cut last year, so we saw good momentum in third quarter, we saw good momentum in fourth quarter, and even first quarter we are seeing a good momentum here across all the segments. So be it two-wheeler, be it passenger vehicles, CVs, tractors, everything, everyone has done well in this quarter. Which means, when the volume growth is strong, we'll see good revenue growth across most of the OEMs as well as the auto ancillary companies. Overall, so that's part one. But however, the other part for the auto components is on the margin side. Because of the West Asia war, we had seen increase in commodity price, and that should reflect in the margin performance for these companies in quarter one. Overall, we thereby expect the EBITDA margin to be a bit under pressure for a lot of OEMs as compared to what it was, in fourth quarter. Overall revenue growth, we are expecting 17% for the auto manufacturers and EBITDA margin to decline by 160 basis point on a YY basis, and which means as compared to same period last year. These are for the companies that we have under coverage. Similarly, even in the auto component space, whatever companies we cover there we are expecting a good revenue growth on a YY basis, but margins should see a little bit of pressure there. As we talked about, that gross margin should see decline across OEMs and select auto ancillaries. From a, if you look at companies which are likely to do good, I'll just look, because we talk about it from a revenue perspective, everyone should ideally do pretty well. But when you look at the operating profit or the EBITDA performance, from that perspective, I think when you look at that perspective, there the companies which will likely show good growth on a YY basis, means same period last year, we will have Bajaj Auto. In fact, we are expecting Bajaj Auto, Eicher Motors, Hero, TVS Motors, some of the bearing companies, then Bharat Forge, Endurance Technology, CIE Auto, Samvardhana Motherson, Sona Comstant, Varroc. Now, these are the companies from our coverage basket, where we are expecting a good growth in their operating profit as the EBITDA on a YY basis. Companies which will see flattish to negative growth in their EBITDA on a YY basis again here, where we are expecting Ashok Leyland, Hyundai, Maruti, Tata Motors CV, Tata Motors passenger vehicle. Now, Tata Motors passenger vehicle domestic business will do well, but JLR will see some pressure. So on a consolidated level, Tata Motors passenger vehicle and all your tire companies like Apollo Tires, C8, MRI, BKT, these are the companies will see the EBITDA possibly declining on a YY basis. So overall, for a two-wheeler space, this should be a strong quarter. Even a lot of diversified auto ancillaries we just named, they too will have a strong quarter. But tire companies will see a bit of weakness, and some select OEMs as well will see some weakness, largely on the EBITDA side. But from a revenue perspective, we should see good quarter for them. Overall, our preferred picks in this space is Mahindra and Mahindra and TVS Motors. Next slide. Yeah. On the cement space, again, a decent quarter for the cement on the top line or the revenue or the volume side. In fact, the industry would have grown by around 6 to 7%, but companies which are under a coverage should have grown a bit stronger because of the inorganic growth. We are expecting double-digit volume growth from Multratrack, Ambuja, JK Cement, Ramco, JSW Cement. These are stocks from our coverage where we are expecting double-digit volume growth as compared to same period last year. However, there was some cost pressure. Now, because of these cost pressure, there were attempts to increase prices by the cement companies. So from that perspective, we have seen around 1.5% YOY increase in cement prices, and on a sequential basis, we have seen the cement prices to be higher by around 4 to 5%. The highest being in the south and east markets. Now, while your revenue growth was decent, cost pressure was definitely there for the cement companies. Again, they're largely because of the Middle East war. Because of that, we are expecting the EBITDA per ton to be under pressure, and would likely see decline on a quarter-on-quarter basis for most of the cement companies. Again, from a cost pressure perspective, again, we have seen the cost pressure have eased a little bit, and we should see some positive impact of this basis the spot prices. We should see some positive impact on H2. But again, with some conflict resuming there in the Middle East, the volatility might possibly continue on the commodity side. Supply addition broadly over this year and next year, which would mean that the capacity utilizations will not increase beyond certain numbers and also would impact price increases. Valuation again we see are still slightly higher for most of the cement companies. Our preferred pick in this space is JSW Cement and Nuvoco Vistas. Just a little update on Nuvoco Vistas. They've already reported their numbers yesterday, and they are overall on Friday, and their overall operating yesterday, yeah. So their overall operating revenues and EBITDA has been better than expected, and their volume growth was around 3.9% on a YY basis. We were expecting again other companies would be reporting the numbers where cost could ideally be a bit under pressure for them. That's it from my end. Over to Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you. So now we will be going, I will give you a view on the capital market sector. So this has been an interesting and rewarding segment for when you see the stock performance for the previous quarter, which is the Q4 FY26. Do we assume this to continue? So we'll look into that. So we see majorly a reversion of trends in Q1 FY27. Why do we see this? So, giving you a broad perspective of the performance of the overall market. So, as you giving you just a brief reminder. So, the markets had hit their war level lows in the March month. So, we can see in the quarter end of the financial year end. So, talking about the performance of the overall market from those level, Nifty has given some odd 7.5 to 8% return, while mid cap and small cap has given whooping 24 to 18% returns. This would largely benefit the asset management company stocks and RTA stocks with their increase in their AUM value, which is the asset under management on which they charge their margins for handling or providing the services. Now, speaking about the volume front, on a sequential basis, we have seen an increase in the cash segment, which is majorly driven by the MTF participation. While talking about the main revenue segment, which provides main leverage to the broking companies, the FNO segment where we have seen a decrease in the volume of around 5 to 10% on a sequential basis. With brokers seeing some moderation in the broking orders for FNO, which is partly offsetted by the MTF growth, AMC stocks are to be benefited by the market recovery. RTS are too gonna benefit from stronger cash market volumes, return of IPOs, and market recovery. While KFin Technologies may see margin pressure due to their M&A expenses, so we find CAMS better placed in the RTS segment. For rating agencies, we expect good operating growth. CRISIL profits we should be supported by acquisitions in their non-retailing business. While talking about IRCA, their revenue growth would be majorly driven by the expansion in their M&A related revenue. Further, speaking on the insurance front, Q1 will likely to be a moderate quarter for the insurance companies, with 7 to 15% of value of new business growth for private sector players, and it is tempered by 11 to 18% of the APE growth. BNB margins will be the interplay between the high growth in the protection business, which would be offsetted by the ITC exemption, which were given by the government for on the life insurance policies. This ITC loss due to GST exemption should temper the second half of FY26 pressure and would continue to hamper or put margins under pressure for the half year of FY27. Q1 started as a promising year with business recovery in April from a muted March. However, the momentum normalized in May. Stronger motor sales growth and momentum in health, buoyant non-payer life, even as a weak commercial line partially offset them. The major trigger or the major headwind for the sector is the much awaited guidelines on the commission's structure, which has been the lagging the momentum or the growth for this sector, while the companies are still yet to announce their growth plans, or which could be reflected in the stock prices. While in this recent correction, SBI Life remains our top pick from this life sector, and Star Health from our non-life sector. That's all from the insurance space. Over to Sumit sir.
Thank you very much. A quick update on the IT services sector, which is in limelight for quite some time, but for bad reasons. We all know that Q1 or the June is a seasonally stronger quarter, but not this time because of the AI headwinds and multiple geopolitical concerns which were there. We expect revenue growth of -1% to +1% for incumbents. Incumbents here means bigger companies or large cap companies. Uh, muted for a seasonally strong quarter with additional billing days. Wipro, if you look, we expect -1.1%. Tech Mahindra at 1% sequential growth, which we consider to be good growth given the current environment and the numbers with other companies are reporting. We expect stable EBIT margin for most companies. Why is it so? Mainly because of rupee depreciation, which is benefiting these companies again. Expect Infosys to revise FY27 revenue growth guidance to 2 to 3.5% from 1.5 to 3.5%. So the lower band will increase. So that is what is very closely been monitored by the investors. In the recent result, which we have seen, like TCS, they have reported very strong TCV, which is $9.5 billion US, very impressive numbers, which gives a lot of revenue visibility. But definitely there are some challenges going ahead also because of the AI. The most important thing is that these challenges do come, and over a period of time, again, some few years down the line, new challenges will come. What is more important to understand is how these companies are handling such situation, how they are adapting to this challenging times. So we are seeing that companies have been very proactive. They are adjusting their business model very fast, which will benefit these companies to come out with such difficult times. So from a long-term perspective, we like TCS, Infosys in the large cap space. In the mid cap, you can focus on Coforge, Hexaware, and Indegene. Next, please. Coming to oil and gas consumer fuels, we have West Asia conflict where the supply disruption, elevated and volatile prices. Margins have been quite different. So all this boils down to one simple thing is that crude prices are at an elevated level and there are supply concerns. It's too difficult to gauge what will be the impact because there are multiple variables. Like if you look at the upstream companies like ONGC and Oil India, there the realization will be better because of the elevated crude oil prices. If you look at Reliance Industries, we expect consolidated operating profit to rise by 8.4% year on year and 5.4% sequentially, driven by oil to chemical business. Then OMCs, which are the downstream companies which buy crude oil, so higher crude oil prices will be negative for them. That will lead to a combined PBT loss of 62,000 crore rupees. GAIL, we expect a good result for GAIL because of the better realization. Petronet LNG on a higher spot LNG imports, we expect Dahej volumes to rise 4 to 5% sequentially. We expect adjusted operating profit to rise by 21% and 15% sequentially. So the thing is that the oil and gas sector looks simple, but there are multiple divisions in it. There are upstream companies, there are midstream companies, and there are downstream companies. And the revenue driver from all of them are totally different. Reliance being a conglomerate, they operate in all the value chain. So point is that when the crude prices are going up, one should focus more on ONGC. When the crude is going down, you should focus more on oil marketing companies. At this juncture, we prefer ONGC and GAIL. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit sir. Hello to all. So now talking about banks, अगर हम banks की बात करें, so Q1 FY27 is expected to be a good quarter, a stable quarter for the banking sector. So broadly speaking about the numbers, the net interest income for banks which we cover are expected to grow by around 8% YOY, PAT की बात करें, so as you can see from your screens, the private banks are expected to deliver close to 11% PAT growth, while the center-owned banks may witness a decline in their PAT on a YOY basis. On the major metrics front, the loan growth for banks in Q1 FY27 is expected to be very strong. So if you look at the fortnightly data, the latest fortnightly data, the entire segment has grown by 18% on the loan growth side. A lot of banks have already declared their Q1 FY27 loan growth, and काफी अच्छा healthy loan growth ये banks ने दिया है. So on the loan growth part, a strong quarter is expected. Margins की बात करें, so the net interest margins for banks are expected to broadly remain stable on a sequential basis, and some banks may also report some bit of a decline on a sequential basis. So NIMs would mostly be driven by एक तो है कि on a yield side there is growing competition in certain segment. So yields में there would be some pressure, and also a lot of these banks are funding, they are sourcing their funds from FDs a lot, and FDs have a relatively higher cost of funds. And due to these two factors, the margins are expected to remain broadly stable on a sequential basis. अगर हम बात करें on the quality of the book, so this is going to be a very big positive for the banks in this quarter. एंड हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं जो GNPA और स्लिपेज जो रेशियो है जो काफी क्लोजली ट्रैक होता है, दिस इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू रिमेन वेरी हेल्दी फॉर बैंक्स. So last several quarters may there was some stress on the MFI part, some stress on the unsecured retail side, but now most of the stress is behind now. In the last quarter, there were some growing concerns due to this Middle East crisis, what will be the impact on the mid-sized companies. As of now, as we speak, and if you look at the data, there has been no material risk जो हमें देखने मिला है. So at least on the Q1 side, asset quality is going to be very resilient for banks, and therefore banks may you can expect good results Q1 में. On what we prefer, we continue to prefer banks like HDFC, ICICI, and Axis on the larger side. We also like the small finance bank, Equitas, Ujjivan are also two banks which we like. So broadly, this is a preview on banks. Next slide, please. Now अगर हम NBFCs की बात करें, so Q1 FY27 NBFCs के लिए काफी strong quarter होने वाला है. Strong quarter में we are expecting something like 18 to 40% sort of a YOY growth for different NBFCs we cover. पहले लोन ग्रोथ जो होने वाली है एनबीएफसीज का वो काफी स्ट्रॉन्ग लोन ग्रोथ हम एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं. इवन ऑन द ग्राउंड लेवल्स अगर हम देखें, सो रिटेल सेल्स काफी हेल्दी हो रहे हैं, व्हीकल सेल्स काफी हेल्दी हो रहे हैं, और इंक्रीमेंटली ऑल्सो ये जो स्मॉल टिकट हाउसिंग नेम्स है इसमें भी हमें इंक्रीमेंटली सिक्वेंशियली काफी इंप्रूवमेंट दिख रहे हैं on the loan book side. So that is also quite healthy. Margins for NBFCs are going to improve on a YOY basis. हम एक रेट कट सिनेरियो में थे एंड therefore ये मार्जिन्स अच्छे होते हैं NBFCs के लिए. सो बोरोइंग कॉस्ट काफी इंप्रूव हो गए. एंड फाइनली ऑन द ग्रॉस स्टेज 3 दैट इज द GNPA स्लिपेजेस साइड, एक स्टेबल अच्छा क्वार्टर होगा NBFCs के लिए. सो लास्ट क्वार्टर में सम सेगमेंट्स हियर एंड देयर वाज सम स्ट्रेस, बट कुछ बड़ा मटेरियलाइज हुआ नहीं है एंड वी एक्सपेक्ट that to remain stable. So NBFCs may all the three boxes are quite ticked. Loan growth will be strong, margins will be good, and slippages would be under control. So again, a very strong quarter for NBFC. This may we continue to prefer Bajaj Finance, Shriram Finance, and also all your small ticket housing players like Home First, Aadhar, Aptus are also something which we like. So this was on the lending side. Rini, on to you.
Thank you, Veer, and good evening, everyone. Now we will talk on the last two sectors and then we'll move to Q&A session. So please drop your questions from now. So moving on to chemical sector, I'll start with agrochemicals uske andar. So the late arrival of monsoon delayed kharif sowing, right? Which means farmers postponed purchases of crop protection products and seeds. So इस वजह से most agrochemical companies are likely to report a softer quarter. The good news is that this demand has largely shifted to the next quarter. तो maybe second quarter better हो सकता है. Coming to specialty chemicals, the picture is mixed. Companies in the CDMO space continue to see healthy demand. At the same time, Deepak Nitrite and Jubilant Ingravia are expected to benefit from temporary pricing gains, while SRF और नवीन फ्लोरिन भी benefit करेंगे from better refrigerant prices जो अभी चल रहे हैं market में. However, input costs remained high, that is raw material prices and chemical prices have started correcting as crude oil softened and competition from China remains intense. So overall, a few companies are outperforming, but the sector could remain under pressure in the coming quarters. हमारा preferred pick from this space is Jubilant Ingravia and Godrej Agrovet. Next slide, please. Thank you. Healthcare services में अगर हम देखें तो we expect another healthy quarter for hospitals and diagnostics, driven by higher patient footfalls, new hospitals becoming operational and occupancy भी जो improve करेगी उस वजह से. Among hospitals, Apollo Hospitals, KIMS, and Rainbow are likely to lead growth as their new capacity starts contributing. While new hospitals do put some pressure on margins initially, ये pressure gradually reduce हो रहा है as occupancy improves. In diagnostics, अगर हम देखें तो Dr. Lal Path Labs and Metropolis should continue to benefit from strong demand for preventive health checkups and specialized tests. Overall, sector की growth story remains intact, and our preferred picks are Apollo Hospitals, Rainbow, and Dr. Lal Path Labs. So that's it on our presentation. We will now open the floor for Q&A session, starting with some of the questions that we already have. Okay, so first question is for Arun sir, who is our auto sector analyst. Arun sir, what is your view on Maruti Suzuki?
See, Maruti broadly, we are positive, but the stock has actually moved up recently. So maybe correction in the stock price would be the right way of looking at it. When we look at this quarter, the company's volume growth has been pretty strong. It's close to around what 29% volume growth they have done in Q1. So that's a pretty good number, and we are expecting a very strong and healthy growth in the revenues this quarter. Just a little bit of correction here. The EBITDA, we are expecting growth. I think earlier I said might be a bit flattish to negative, but we are expecting growth, but that growth will not be very high. It would be more of a single digit what we are anticipating at this point in time. That's largely because we're expecting the margins this quarter would be under pressure. And that would be because of mix of few things. One is because of the raw material pressure we talked about, the commodity price have increased, the impact of that. The second is also on the product mix side. So we had, I think, the higher mix of, hatchbacks or the smaller cars this quarter. So that could also possibly have some implications on the margins for that. But overall, broadly, we are sort of positive on Maruti from a medium to long-term investments. But again, since, as I said, that the stock has moved up in the last, a month or so, correction in the stock price would be a right approach to enter the stock.
Thank you, Arun sir. Next question is for Amarjeet. Amarjeet, FSN e-commerce पे आपका क्या view है?
So we have ad rating on that, and our fair value is 340 rupees. So Nykaa is FSN e-commerce venture, which is Nykaa, is a leading omni-channel beauty, personal, and fashion retailer with the growing portfolio of own brand. So basically, in this company, we focus, BPC product like beauty and personal care and fashion and own brand and B2B business. अगर हम BPC business देखें beauty and product personal care में, so we are expecting strong growth over next 4 years, like more than 25% growth, mainly driven by the customer acquisition and higher ticket size and increase in number of products. So and apart from that, we are expecting a margin improvement. And अगर fashion category में देखा तो we are expecting profitability further in this segment. So main reason is that like we strong growth. We are expecting more than 30% growth in over next 4 years, and this will driven by the customer acquisition and category addition and average order value expansion. And further we expect strong growth in the own brand. जो नायका का own brand वहाँ पे भी एक अच्छा growth expect कर रहे हैं, more than 30% CAGR, and we are expecting that own brand become almost 5,000 crore sales GMV. by 30 and supported by existing brand and new launches. And B2B business में BPC business में भी हम लोग 30% CAGR growth expect कर रहे हैं and we are expecting break even by 2030. So overall, all the categories we are expecting going ahead strong growth. So we have positive rating and positive ad rating and fair value is 340 rupees.
Thank you, Amarjeet. Next question is for Pankaj sir. Pankaj sir, what is your view on Lodha?
Yeah, on Lodha, we are positive. In fact, we have a buy rating and we have fair value of 1330. If you see recently, Lodha ने काफी अच्छा perform भी किया है stock price movement के हिसाब से भी. When we look at the numbers also, the company at last year they have reported a 17% growth in the pre-sales, and even the current financial year they are guiding for 17% growth in pre-sales, so roughly 24,000 crore pre-sales they are expecting. They have a very strong gross development value GDV, which will drive future growth. So roughly 2 lakh crore of GDV is there. And apart from that, if you look at, they are also riding on data center story. So they have roughly 4,000 acre of land near Mumbai and roughly 400 acres, 500 acres they are keeping aside for the data center business. So in fact, they will be selling land as well as they will be developing data centers. So in that way, overall, we are positive on the stock.
Understood. Taking one last question due to time constraint. Veer, this question is for you. What is your view on Federal Bank?
Yeah, sorry. So on Federal Bank, it's a stock which we continue to like, and we have been recommending to our clients for some time now. Now, Federal Bank in the past couple of years had gone through a transformational journey where they wanted to change their loan mix towards higher yielding loan products and going to a low margin bank to a relatively higher margin bank. The idea was without impacting their slippages. And as of now, the company has been doing this quite well. They are on that trajectory pretty well. And thanks to this strategy, if we talk about Q1 FY27, it is going to be one of those rare banks who will be delivering a NIM improvement on a YOY basis. And therefore, on Q1 FY27, we're expecting the PAT for Federal Bank to grow by close to 30% level. Even their loan growth is something which we expect would be delivering quite well. So it's a bank which you continue to like. They've been doing quite well on the strategy part. And going ahead, we expect the numbers to be pretty good for Federal Bank. And therefore, the rating on Federal Bank is buy. And yeah, that's on Federal Bank.
Thank you, Veer. With this, we've reached the end of today's webinar. I would now request Shrikant sir to give his closing comments.
Yeah, thank you, Rini. See, like in last almost 2 months, we have seen completely volatile sort of activity in the market, and it was, we can say, completely on the based on the news flow, which was highly uncertain. Now, while looking at the next step for the market, then again it will depend upon the news flow. But at the same time, what is important is we need to focus on the earning, and based on the earnings, we have to work upon the investment ideas. आपको ये समझना है कि देखिए मार्केट में ऐसे इवेंट्स आते रहते हैं. इवेंट्स कभी कभी काफी बड़ा लंबा समय भी ले लेते हैं, और उस वक्त क्या होता है कि हमें थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन होने लगता है, हमारा कॉन्फिडेंस कम होने लगता है, और ऐसे केस में क्या होता है कि हम गलत डिसीजंस लेते हैं. तो जो लेवल्स पे माल खरीदना होता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट करना होता है, उन्हीं लेवल्स पे जाके हम हमारे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को बेच देते हैं. तो वेरी फर्स्ट यहाँ पे हमें पैनिक नहीं करना है. दूसरी बात यह है कि हमें अपॉर्चुनिटी मार्केट में मिलेगी, उस अपॉर्चुनिटी का हमें बराबर से फायदा उठाना है. और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट ये है कि यहाँ पे जो अभी मार्केट है, इन लेवल्स पे अगर आप देखेंगे तो हमने मार्च एंड यानी कि अप्रैल से लेकर अभी तक मिड कैप और स्मॉल कैप में अच्छी अपवर्ड एक्टिविटी देखी है और काफी अच्छी रिटर्न्स उनने बने हैं। बट लार्ज कैप अभी भी अगर देखा जाए तो काफी अंडर परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं और उसका सबसे बड़ा रीजन यही है कि जो मैक्रोज है, जैसे कि करेंसी सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट जो पार्ट प्ले कर रही है, वो काफी वीक रही है, जिसकी वजह से जो आउटफ्लो है मार्केट में, एफआईएस की एक्टिविटी यानी कि एफआईएस के जो आउटफ्लो है वो और बढ़ गए थे। उसके अलावा हम लाइक 85-86% डिपेंड है एक्सटर्नल एनर्जी के ऊपर। और इसी वजह से क्या हुआ है कि मार्केट जो है यानी कि जो इकोनॉमी है अपनी, उसके ऊपर करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट का डेंट बढ़ते जा रहा है। ऑल्सो इन बिटवीन अगर आप देखें तो हमने गोल्ड के प्राइसेस में भी एक बड़ी रैली देखी थी। और इसके अलावा अगर हम देखें तो अ, जो हम टेक्नोलॉजी इंपोर्ट करते हैं ग्लोबल मार्केट से, उसके भी दाम काफी बढ़ गए हैं, तो उसका भी बिल बढ़ गया है। तो ओवरऑल इसी वजह से क्या हुआ है कि हमारे बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट पे प्रेशर और बढ़ा हुआ है, जिसकी वजह से हमारा जो ओवरऑल आने वाले Q1 Q2 के नंबर्स रहेंगे वो थोड़े प्रेशर में रहेंगे। बट ऐसा ही वक्त होता है कि जहां पे आपको स्टॉक्स अच्छे दाम में मिलते हैं। तो एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम वी आर ऑफ द व्यू दैट we should look for adding good companies, select companies, large cap stocks to our portfolio with a medium to long term view. 23,800 ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट लेवल था मार्केट के लिए और अभी भी ये इम्पॉर्टेंट लेवल है। अगर इन लेवल्स के नीचे अगर मार्केट क्लोज होता है तो पॉसिबिलिटी है कि हम 23,500 जा सकते हैं, लेकिन वहां पे सस्टेन होना मुझे मुश्किल लग रहा है। मुझे लगता है कि जैसे ही मार्केट 23,500 400 पे आएगा, ये वेरी क्विकली रिबाउंड भी कर सकता है। और हायर लेवल पे बहुत दिनों से जो हम बात कर रहे हैं 24,600, ये एक इंपॉर्टेंट लेवल है। अगर मार्केट इन लेवल्स को क्रॉस कर लेगा 24,600 को, तो देन उसके बाद मार्केट जो है वो 25,000 प्लस भी जा सकता है। तो फॉर द टाइम बीइंग हम 23,800 24,600 में मार्केट को और ट्रेड करते हुए देख सकते हैं। करेक्शन में इन्वेस्टमेंट करना है और हायर लेवल्स पे क्लोज टू 24,500 400 हमारे पोजीशंस को हमें थोड़ा सा रिड्यूस करना है। बट अगर 24,600 अगर लेवल क्रॉस कर लेता है तो फिर मार्केट में हमें एक और भी अच्छा ट्रेंड देखने मिल सकता है। तो एट दिस लेवल एंड फॉर नेक्स्ट लेट्स से फ्यू डेज हमें लार्ज कैप स्टॉक्स के ऊपर फोकस करना है। और हर एक सेक्टर पे आप ध्यान दीजिए, ऐसा नहीं कि किसी एक पे ही देना है, क्योंकि अभी ऐसा लग रहा है कि ऑटो में से अगर आप कंसिडर करते हो कुछ स्टॉक्स तो वो भी काफी अट्रैक्टिव लग रहे हैं। नो डाउट कि क्रूड प्राइसेस बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, मॉनसून का प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन तभी ये सब स्टॉक्स हमें ये लेवल्स पे मिल रहे हैं। पॉसिबल है कि यहाँ से 5-10% का करेक्शन आ भी सकता है, लेकिन जब मार्केट में रिकवरी आएगी, जब वापस जो न्यूज़ फ्लो है वहाँ पे सर्टेनिटी आएगी, उसके बाद हमें लगता है कि यही सब सेक्टर्स रहेंगी जो सबसे पहले रिबाउंड करते हुए नजर आएंगे। तो ऑन एंड होल लार्ज कैप स्टॉक्स पे फोकस करना है एंड करंट लेवल से लेकर ऑन डिप्स हमें इन्वेस्टमेंट्स करने का स्ट्रेटेजी फॉलो करना है। दैट्स ऑल।
Thank you, Shrikant sir, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good evening ahead.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.